Hello, hello, everybody. Chelsea here, coming to you live for this episode of the Love Over Fear show. I'm getting everything set up, making sure the tech gods are not against me today. You know how that goes. So, really excited for today's episode. And if you are joining me live, please do say hello, connect with me if you're with me live. Really excited for today's episode, which is Embody Your Courage. As you may have noticed, our business name is Healing Embodied because we truly believe that healing and change and growth is not just conceptual and theoretical and knowing things and telling yourself things. It's about truly changing and feeling differently on a cellular level, feeling the changes, feeling the healing happening in your body and how you feel and how you move and how you breathe and how you show up in the world. So today we're going to dive into how to embody courage, not just understand it on a conceptual level and be saying to yourself like, well, I wish I had more courage, but to actually know how to feel that and access that energetically in your body. Everything is energy, right? Everything is movement. Every little thing, even the still things, my desk has movement and energy in it. So we actually really want to focus on the energy that we experience within ourselves and knowing how to shift that energy and to cultivate an energy of courage. That's what we're going to be doing today. And I see there's some people joining me live. Are you excited to learn some ways to actually activate the energy of courage within your own body? I'm excited. It's the coolest thing. My husband always likes to say like he thinks I'm like a wizard or something. He's like, I don't actually know what it is that you do. I just assume you're a wizard. And yeah, sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it feels pretty magical to learn how to work with the energy in our body. It feels magical. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So before we dive into how to embody courage, I just want to give the definition for courage. You are probably in this group watching this episode because you experience a lot of fear and anxiety in your life, in your relationships, in your choices, and you probably desperately wish that you didn't ever feel that way. I wish the anxiety would go away. I wish I wasn't so afraid. And we might believe that to be courageous means that we don't feel fear and anxiety again. And be sure to check out the last episode that Sarah did because she talks all about what it actually means to be courageous. And I'm just going to briefly touch on that and then move into the embodiment piece. So the actual Oxford definition of courage that I have here is the ability to do something that frightens one. The ability to do something that frightens you. The other definition was strength in the face of pain or grief. And I don't think those definitions could be any more perfect. And they couldn't capture any better the work that we do at Healing Embodied. The ability to move forward, to show up, even if it scares you. It's showing up, knowing that all of that is present. The fear, pain, and grief, it's showing up anyway. I'm not here to tell you that overcoming anxiety feels easy because we have to do things that scare us. We have to do things that the anxiety has been trying to get us to avoid. We have to tend to and look at our own pain and grief. And that's where we find our courage. So courage doesn't mean you don't have fear present. Courage doesn't mean like you're just never scared of anything and that fear never shows up and gives it a little speech of like, what if this and what if that, and you'll never do this and this will happen and that. Courage doesn't mean that little voice poof magically goes away. The biggest, most like significant decisions I've made in my life, that fear was present. That voice that let me know all the things that could go wrong was there. It was there. And I felt that voice in my body. You know, I felt the fear in my body. Constantly powerless to the fear and listening to its every command. The voice of fear is very commanding, very another option. We don't have to do what the voice of fear says. So I want to teach you how to access that part of you. Fear may be present. The voice of anxiety may be there, but there's also something else within you, and that is courage. That is showing up anyway. If you want more incredible, inspiring information on courage, go look up the work of Brené Brown. I think she has a Netflix special called A Call to Courage. I've watched it, and I think it's called A Call to Courage, but damn, it's good. So what I want to help you with today and guide you into today is learning how to change your relationship to the anxiety and fear so that you can access courage in the face of it instead of feeling powerless to it. Like I said, doing this work isn't suddenly going to poof, make all fears and anxiety go away. We are wired for fear. That is how we have survived as a species. So whenever we do anything that takes a bit of risk, fear might show up, because that's how we have survived, by avoiding risk. But the risks that we have to take today are very different than the risks that mankind took centuries ago, right? Their risks involved tigers, lions, bears, and, you know, people killing each other with spears and stuff. The risks we take today are more emotional and relational, but we still have that very primal part of us that triggers fear responses in the face of risk. So I'm not here to say once you find freedom from anxiety, that means you never have anxiety. It means you get to access a different part of you. You get to change your relationship with fear and anxiety so that you're not always at its mercy, feeling powerless to it, feeling like you can't live your life or make the choices you want to make because, oh God, fear's there. And what does that mean? And what if this? And what if that? Oh, no. And then we retreat. We want to change our relationship to the fear and anxiety so that we can say, yep, I hear you, fear. Thank you for letting me know everything that could go wrong. And I'm choosing to show up anyway. That's what I want for every single person in our community, every single one of our clients. I want them to be able to access that empowered, courageous part of themselves. So let's first get into how fear impacts how we show up in our lives, in our relationships, and how we make decisions. When we have this relationship with fear, where we listen to everything that it says, where we feel like we're at its mercy, where we feel like we're powerless to it, it is going to impact how we show up and make decisions. So I want us to actually go into the body and feel into how being taken over by fear and anxiety impacts how we show up, impacts our energy, impacts our emotional landscape, and therefore impacts our behavior, right? Emotions, behaviors, thoughts, they all have this dance with one another. So let's get into it. Let's get into the body. Let's become curious. Let's explore not only the thoughts that fear brings up, but how it impacts how we show up, how we move, how we breathe, how we interact with ourselves and with other people. Okay? I see some people with me live. Are you ready? It's not scary, I promise. And if it is, we're accessing courage anyway. So we're just going to practice courage in the face of things that might feel a little bit scary. So what I want you to do, whether you're with me live or watching afterwards, is just find a seated position that feels supported. Maybe you have your back against a wall, you're sitting on your bed, you have your back against the chair, just a position that feels supported. Take a moment to settle in to the support of where you're seated. Feel the backs of your thighs being supported, your sits bones, your spine. Just becoming aware of your body. When we're really in the midst of anxiety, sometimes our whole attention is consumed by what's happening up here. Sometimes the thoughts are so loud that we forget what's happening in our body. We forget what's happening around us. So this is what we're doing. We're just shifting our focus from our mind and the thoughts in our mind to our bodies. So notice the feeling of your back being supported, the backs of your thighs. Feel your spine from your tailbone going up all the way to the top of your head. Feeling that connection. We have the external support of the chair, and we have the internal support of our spine, our skeleton. So just feeling that sense of support. Feel your rib cage as you breathe. And you can feel free to pause this and take as long as you need to, anchoring into your body. And if you notice your mind keeps pulling you back up into thinking, that's okay. Just lovingly, compassionately direct your focus back to your body. Maybe that's the feeling of your rib cage expanding and contracting, or the feeling of your back against the chair, your feet on the floor, whatever it is, anchoring into the awareness of your body. And from here, we're going to begin to explore how fear and anxiety manifests in our body energetically. And let's just start with our breath. For me, all emotion can be boiled down to breath, sound, and movement. I could make a combination of those three things, and you could probably guess what emotion I was feeling without any words. So what is the breath pattern of fear? How do you breathe when anxiety is taking over, when fear is taking over? For me, my breath is very shallow. It's like caught up in my chest. I don't have very long exhales. So just explore that for yourself. Like, how do I breathe? How does fear manifest in my body and impact how I'm breathing? Even as I'm breathing like this and trying it on, I can feel myself getting like lightheaded. And when I get really, really anxious, I get like dizzy. So we can even begin to see like, ooh, the energy of fear feels like very dizzying. caught, and even begin to play with some sound. Maybe you don't use words, but how do you speak when you are just completely taken over with anxiety? My voice is more like this and kind of shaky and how do you speak? How do you sound? Even like the whistling of the inhale. What does fear sound like? How does it manifest? How does it shift how we show up? And finally, let's explore how fear impacts how we move, meaning how we hold our body, how we hold our posture. Maybe you're the type of person that gets the bouncy legs. How does fear impact how you move? For me, I'm very much collapsed. I feel very disconnected from my sense of power. There's tension. I get that knot in my stomach. It's hard for me to just be still. Either my mind is racing or I'm like, I have to do something, I have to do something. So even just try on, how does fear impact how you move? And you can exaggerate it, you can play with it, but the overall energy of fear in your body, for me, it's like, oh yeah. We can be playful with it. And as you're in this energy, as fear is manifesting in this way, how you move, how you breathe, how you sound, how does that impact how you show up in your relationship? When you're in this energy, constricted, tense, panicked, maybe you freeze, how does that impact your behavior? Do you shut down from your partner? Do you pull back and withdraw? Do you cling and grasp? How does it impact how you show up? Do you nitpick and look for flaws? Do you kind of have one foot out the door? And it's hard for you to just fully open up and relax into the relationship. How does it impact how you make decisions when you're in this place? Oh God, which one? How does it impact how you make decisions? Maybe it keeps you from making decisions, or maybe it makes it puts you in the place where you want to avoid certain things because you're afraid of them potentially happening. So maybe you avoid making commitments because you're afraid of what would happen if I made a commitment. So how does fear impact how you show up in your relationship? How you make decisions or not make decisions? Do you constantly go back and forth with decisions and feel this sense of confusion and urgency? Just sit with that for a moment. Become curious. If this is how we show up when we are at the mercy of fear and feeling powerless to it and believing it's every command, really take note of that. In our self-study course, Safety Within, we call this the dance of anxiety. What is your dance? What is your specific dance? When anxiety enters the scene, how do you move? How do you show up? What is the dance? Okay. So take note of that. Maybe you want to write it down. Maybe the more aware we are of when fear is in the driver's seat and when we're listening to the voice of fear and feeling powerless to fear, the more we are aware of that, then the more we can have access to other choices. Because then we're like, oh, this is fear. It's here, but this is fear and not real. Then we have access to other choices. So take note of that. What does fear feel like? How does it change and impact how you show up in your relationship, in your decision making? So important to be aware of your unique dance of fear and anxiety. How are we feeling out there? I see some people with me live. We're going really deep. This is very experiential. Ooh, so I'm just going to check in for a moment. Ooh, what was that like? Is there anything you noticed or you want to share? Maybe it brought up a lot of emotion. How does fear impact, and listening to fear and anxiety impact how you show up and make decisions? Hmm. Okay. I know comments can be delayed, so I will go ahead and help us shift out of that little experiential. So if it helps you, you can like shake that out, shake that energy out, stretch, kind of shift your body to shift the energy. Woo, we spent a lot of time with fear there and anxiety. Ooh, maybe you want to stand up and jump. Ooh. Take some cleansing, nourishing breaths to just release that energy. Okay, now the comments are coming in. Constantly thinking about how you're reacting instead of being present. Yeah, it's like this over analysis. Instead of just like being with the moment, with what is. Yeah, fear can definitely create that over analysis of how you're acting, how your partner's acting. Yeah, okay. So let's shake that out. Ooh, shift that energy a bit. Ooh. So that's, I want us to be very clear on how fear impacts us. And guess what? This isn't an overnight process. So maybe it was still at this point hard for you to decipher, what is fear? Like, I feel like this all the time. If it's become like your baseline, it's going to be initially hard to differentiate. Like, this is me when I'm in a state of fear, and this is me when I'm neutral. So know that it's going to take time. We have services to support you with that. I'll get to that later. But if at first it felt overwhelming or scary, that's okay. Put it down and come back to it later when you feel ready. So let's shift to the next part. Accessing courage in the body. The same thing with fear. How does it breathe? How does it sound? How does it move? How do I hold my body? How do I behave? We're going to do the same thing with courage. So for me, when I think of courage, I can't help but stand up. So maybe you want to stand up. Maybe you want to play with it sitting down, whatever works for you. Accessing courage. So if fear is, for me, kind of this like collapsing inward, shaky, disconnected, then I want to be able to kind of access the opposite energy of that. Okay, we got some more comments coming in. My fear and anxiety tend to make me think, did I have enough physical touch with him today? Did I talk to him? Should I kiss him? Like, I'm constantly observing my actions, thoughts, and reactions. Yes, yes. And go back to the energy part, because I see that you're still with the thoughts. What is the energy underlying those thoughts? How does it impact how you show up in your body, how you feel emotionally? If you could express fear without any of the thoughts attached, what would it look like? That's my challenge, because we want to really focus on working with the energy. Okay, so if fear is this like over analysis, I imagine like very like rapid movement. If your thinking is very rapid, then you might have this intense energy inside, rapid movement, maybe the shaking, maybe like difficulty focusing. So your gaze is going everywhere. If that's what fear taking over feels like and how it manifests, how might courage look in the body? How might courage feel energetically? So let's explore this together and feel free to comment in the chat box if you're already getting some ideas and inspiration. But like I said, we don't want to just talk about courage. Oh, courage is, this, and courage is that. I want us to actually put it in our body and feel what it feels like. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of courage is an opening. It's this opening of the self, because fear is very like self-protective and avoidant, or maybe like on the attack, but you're still kind of protecting your heart space. For me, courage is this like opening of the heart space. Like, here I am opening myself, being vulnerable, because I know fear is there. I know risk might be there, but I'm going to choose to be open-hearted. So even just try that on, like an opening of the heart space. Maybe you want to use your hands because you've been feeling tension from all the anxiety and you want to kind of massage out the chest to loosen it. But an opening, I think of my shoulders being back and down, feeling that strength. I think of my spine being elongated and being connected to my core. My breath deepens, is more intentional. I take bigger exhales. So try that on for yourself. Feel the support of your spine, your core, an opening of the chest. And for me, it feels really good to put my hands over these parts as like support. I got you. Deepening of the breath. I think of my gaze being focused on what's ahead of me instead of like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So even try like focusing your eyes on one thing in the room, something that's kind of eye level. Just spend a few moments there. And really planting your feet in the ground, feeling grounded, supported by your lower body, supported through the spine, open of the chest, focused. Deep breaths. Or maybe there's something else that you want to try when you connect with courage. Maybe there's like a movement of your arms. Maybe there's like an opening of the arms, feeling of your strength. Think of like a person standing on like a mountaintop or the edge of a cliff, just like. So just try different things on in your body. Embodying courage. If fear is all of this, then maybe courage looks something like this. Grounded, supported, connected, focused. Breathing deeply, trusting. So just take a moment with that. Feel that. Maybe it feels really unfamiliar, or maybe you feel the pull to go back into the anxious place because that's the normal pattern. See if you can stay with courage just 30 seconds longer. This might feel so unfamiliar if the default pattern has been fear. So your body is literally like trying this new thing on. Beautiful. And if you need to, you can shake that out. Or if you want to stay in that, stay in that. I can stretch. Ooh. Yes. Ooh. Now let me check in again. How did courage feel? What did you notice in your body? How do you show up in the space around you as you embody courage? What does that feel like? What does that feel like? How did you breathe? How did you move? How did you sound if you played with sound? I definitely feel less dizzy. Oh, accessing that fear makes me dizzy. Whew. How did courage feel in your body? What did you notice? So what we really want to begin to do is change our relationship to the fear and anxiety so that we can still access courage even when the fear and anxiety is present. Yeah? So we're going to play with this. We're going to practice this in a small way, accessing the energy of courage even when we also simultaneously are experiencing fear and anxiety. Courage actually felt more like softness than hardness to me. Yes, there is this softness to it. It's this like I said, this open-heartedness of like, life is so vulnerable and so precious, and I'm going to show up fully. And that's like the most tender thing you can do. I love that. There is a softness to courage, because sometimes fear is a lot like putting up this very rigid wall, and courage is, here I am, being kind and gentle toward myself. Oh, yeah. Fear is so hypercritical and judgmental. And courage says, boo, you got this. I got you. Look at us go. Like you're doing the damn thing. That's like what courage sounds like to me. Like, baby girl, oh, look at you go. It's very kind, very kind. And I'll tell you what, I prefer to listen to the voice that is kinder. An inner voice that is judgmental and critical, never trust that voice. It's suspect, because it's probably an internalized voice from someone else, from society, from family, from religion. And fear and anxiety usually has this very critical, judgmental, commanding voice. And when you hear those kinds of thoughts and you feel that in your body, it's a great indicator. I think I'm under the spell of anxiety right now. Always listen to the kinder voice, the gentler voice, the compassionate voice. Yeah, so good. I love that. So we're going to practice this accessing courage in the face of something that maybe brings up a bit of fear. And I want us to explore this in a way that's kind of not high risk, meaning I don't want you to call to mind the thing that makes you the most afraid, okay? We're not going to go there, because I would really want to be there in person with you to support you through that and co-regulate. So we're going to play with this kind of on a lower stakes level, because being able to access courage is like weight training. First, you kind of face the smaller things. You bring up courage in something that makes you a little nervous, and then you can kind of bring up courage in things that make you more nervous, and then you can have courage in the face of things that once caused you to crumble. So courage is kind of like a muscle. We're building it. So we're going to start with something small. So I want to invite you to call to mind something that brings just a bit of fear or nerves. Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's like planning a trip with your partner, and you're like, oh my God, what if I get anxious? And it's not like super anxiety inducing, but there's a little bit of nerves to it. Let me think of some other examples. Maybe it's something, Sarah always uses this example, so I'm calling you out, Sarah. Maybe it's up to me to pick the choice of restaurant for a group of friends. And I hate decision making. So call to mind something that brings just a little bit of fear and nervousness. So take a moment, and if you're with me live or in the replay, share in the chat, in the comments, that thing that brings up just a little bit of fear. It could be public speaking, planning a trip, picking the restaurant. Trying to think of something that makes me a little bit nervous. Even like in the beginning, going live on Facebook used to make me a bit nervous. Yeah. So something that makes you a little bit nervous. Yeah, maybe it is Zoom calls for work and like you have to speak in front of everybody. So something that makes you just a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, a little bit of fear, but not like the biggest one. So call that to mind. Bring it into your consciousness. Situations or something that just brings up a little bit of, just a little bit. Okay, and once you have that thing, we're going to stand again. If that feels good to you, you can stay seated if that feels better. So we want to begin to change our energetic relationship to the things that once brought up fear and anxiety. And we're starting small. So usually when we have something, whether it's just a thought or a situation or a decision, usually when that thing comes up, we go into our normal pattern of fear, and then we go, no, or da, 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 da. So we want to actually change our embodied energetic relationship to that thing. So whatever that little thing that brings up a little bit of fear or nerves is, I want you to imagine it as something in front of you. Even if it's just a thought, imagine it in front of you. Maybe it takes on a form or a shape. Maybe it has a color. And if you're seated, imagine it sitting in front of you, across from you. And maybe even as you're imagining that thing that makes you a little bit nervous, you can kind of feel your body. You can feel your breathing change. You can feel your posture beginning to change. And that just shows you what the usual pattern is. So just take note of that. It's not wrong or bad if you notice a bit of that resistance and fear. That's just the normal pattern revealing itself. So imagine that thing, that thought, that situation that brings up a little bit of nerves. And I want you to slowly begin to call back that courage in your body. So imagine it in front of you. Take on the breath of courage, those deeper breaths, the posture of courage. For me, it's like supported yet flexible. It's not like rigid. Feeling your feet planted and anchored into the ground. Like someone said, there's a bit of a softness with courage, a gentleness. So can you access that energy, that inner opening, support, strength, softness, however courage feels to you, gentleness? Can you access that while simultaneously being aware of the fear, the thing that makes you a little bit nervous or a little bit afraid? And just notice what it feels like to simultaneously be with these two parts. This thing that usually feels a bit scary, a bit nerve-wracking, and also embodying courage in the face of it. Opening, softening, elongating, grounding. And just notice if you feel any shifts in your relationship to that thing, that thought, that situation that usually makes you a little bit nervous. As you shift the energy inside of you, how does that shift your relationship to the thing that usually makes you anxious and afraid. Just notice that. Oh, maybe it's subtle. Maybe it feels less scary. Still scary, but maybe a little less scary. Maybe you have more empowering thoughts about this thing. Maybe you can breathe a little deeper, even though this thing is still there. Maybe you feel like you want to hug it. Feel into, ooh, what does my body want to do from this place of courage? Just notice that. I can access courage while facing the thing that usually makes me go, oh. This is how we change the pattern in our body. And the more we do this, the more we practice embodying and accessing that courage, that softness, that kindness, that gentleness, that inner strength, that groundedness, the more we do that, the more and more and more we're going to be able to face the things that scare us, to face the pain and the grief without being completely overtaken and powerless to those things anymore. That's the magic. That's the magic. It's not getting certainty. It's not knowing for sure. It's not overanalyzing to find the answer. It's, can I access the energy of courage in my body even when things feel scary or painful? And that changes everything because you're no longer controlled by the fear. I've noticed that since I've been doing this work and working on courage, my intrusive thoughts about my relationship and partner don't give me the crazy anxiety like it did before. My brain tries to tell me because I'm not having crazy anxiety over the thoughts must be true and I just don't care. How do you get over that thought process? So this is one of the most common questions I get asked. As you're shifting your relationship to the thoughts and you're doing work like this, you might notice you're not as reactive. You're actively working on changing that relationship to the thoughts so that you're not like, ah! You're not as reactive. But here's the thing. The mind is conditioned, and I did an episode of the Love Over Fear show on this called The Mind, the Meaning Making Machine. The mind is conditioned, meaning it repeats what it knows. It repeats things based on past experiences and based on things that it has heard before from surrounding culture. So your mind is going to, when we're unconscious, meaning we're not consciously actively working towards changing our thoughts, the default is going to be what it already knows. And if you've been rehearsing anxious thoughts for years, they're not going to just poof, go away overnight. But the fact that you're not as reactive to them is a sign of growth. Can you see them there, just like what we did? Can you see them there and still access that courage? And then they're going to go like, well, what if this means, the fact that you can be courageous in the face of me, what if this means that it's all right? Can I stay in my courage? Can I let fear do its thing? Make the noise, make the judgments, make the assumptions. What if? Can we still simultaneously have both things exist? Yeah. And then the thoughts lose their power. And then as you access this different energy within yourself, you're going to have new thoughts that reflect this new energy of, I'm empowered, I can trust myself, all things work out, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I don't need to know, like your thoughts begin to shift. And maybe every now and then you get, one of the old thoughts recycling through and you can be like, oh, there's that one again. Cool, see ya, bye. Yes. How often do you recommend doing this exercise a day to get relief? That is completely up to you. Um, I definitely recommend doing this kind of work as consistently as possible because it is always, always easier to go back to our default patterns. It's like creating a new habit. It's like changing the way you eat or exercising. You're not going to see much results if you do it once a month. But if you do it consistently, you're going to start to see results and feel differently. And this is what we do in all of our work at Healing Embodied. We have that structure and that support to provide the consistency, different practices, a variety of practices to help you access self-trust, courage, peace from within, calm, power, sensuality. We're helping you access all of these different facets of yourself instead of constantly being in the default of fear and anxiety. We are these beautiful, radiant, multifaceted beings with all these different parts of us. And when we're so consumed with anxiety, we kind of lose access to our courage, our sassy side, our fun side, our playful side, our dramatic side, our calm side. And that's what we help, our clients do in all of our work is help them access these different parts of themselves so that anxiety is not the default, the go-to. We're creating these new patterns in the body mind. Yes, I'm wanting to use this in my morning routine. Yeah, what a great way to start the day. Hello. I started my day today with some pole dancing, and that's very like strong and playful. Yeah, it starts with a great energy. Oh, good idea. Is this an example of how the love immersion course is? Yeah, so all of our work, the Luscious Love Immersion, it's all embodiment work. It's all this kind of stuff. We're helping you to change your relationship with the fear and anxiety so that the thoughts don't scare you anymore. They don't you're not powerless to the fear anymore. Accessing your ability to trust yourself and what that feels like. So the Luscious Love Immersion course is our most in-depth program because it's live. It has the most embodiment sessions. And then we have our Safety Within course, which is a self-paced course, but it's all guided videos like this. So I'm taking you through different practices. So both of our core services, Safety Within and the Luscious Love Immersion, are going to work on these things in different ways. So the main difference being Luscious Love is live, there's more support, and Safety Within being self-paced. You can do it at your own pace, your own time, and it's a bit shorter as far as the content goes. So I will post all the information to that because this, I will say it a million times, this work has been life-changing for me, learning how to actually work with my emotional states, work with my body, work with my nervous system, change my reactions from the inside out. It's so much more effective to change your emotional state than it is to try to use your thoughts to change your emotional state. If you're like going like this and you're like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, your body's not going to believe you. So we have to get our body on board and for our body to start believing, yeah, I can trust myself. Yeah, I'm courageous. Yeah, I'm empowered. Yeah, I can be open-hearted. Yeah, I can be vulnerable. Yeah, it's safe to love. Our body has to believe it. Our body has to believe it, or else we're always going to have this incongruence and this disconnect between what our mind is saying and what our body is saying. So that's really what we work on in our programs and in our services is that body-mind congruence for your mind to be able to say like, I know this is a healthy relationship. I know this person is safe. And for your body to also believe that. Yeah, it's powerful. So I will post the information to both of our services, different options of support for people at different places in their journey. So I'll post that because there's so many more practices. This was just one. And if you got something out of this one, you're going to get so much more out of our more extensive services that give you more practices, more tools, more information on the nervous system, on the body-mind connection. And it's just going to help you understand the whole pattern. Instead of being so confused about what's going on, we really want people in our world to understand how this all works, and that it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be afraid of. Your anxiety is not something to be afraid of. Yeah. All right, everybody. I hope this was empowering. I hope this gave you a new perspective. I hope this gave you something that you can take with you and put into your morning practice or use when you find yourself getting anxious and afraid. I hope this was a gift to know what it feels like to access courage, gentleness, kindness, support, strength in your own body. It's amazing. You're welcome. All right, loves. I will post the information to our 2 core programs if you want to take this deeper and learn more and more and more practices that are going to help you really change the pattern of anxiety. All right, sending you all so much love, and I will see you next time.